How's it going? How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another deck profile. It's been about a year since I did a Traptrix deck profile, so I thought that I would use this as sort of an update for the current format. Right now, I think Traptrix is in a good spot once more because Snake Eye, while being the best deck of the format and being tier 0, I think Traptrix has a very good matchup going into it because not only can it run a lot of non-engine, but your main engine, as in the Traptrix monsters, can facilitate a lot of powerful combos that most Snake Eye players are going to be scratching their head at. So for our monster lineup, I'm running 3 Traptrix Myrmelio, as well as 3 Putica, 3 Mantis, double Dionea, 2 Arachnacampa. This lineup is very staple, and this is the lineup you're going to be seeing for a lot of profiles. Some people run 2 Putica. Me personally, I don't think that's correct, because why would you trade the ability to grab a field spell that helps you not only play through Nibiru, but also helps you extend beyond just make Sarah and then now I don't have Holtea. It also makes drawing into multiple normal summons better, as long as you can get to that Traptrix Garden. For non-engine, I'm running 3 Nibiru, 3 Exceed, 3 Dimension Shifter, 3 Ash Blossom. One of the pros of Traptrix is the ability to run a lot of non-engine, because not only is your main engine very powerful and can end on very powerful boards, but a lot of your non-engine is going to help you prevent your opponent from making a board or help you break a board. Cards like Evenly Matched, opening like double hand traps, and some might say that Shifter doesn't really have a good home in this deck because it turns off the Holtea Grave line as well as the Dionea effect to summon from Grave. There's also an argument where if you're going to use Shifter, you probably shouldn't use Holtea in the same turn if you're having to discard a trap hole. But this is something that a lot of people don't seem to understand, is if you're in a format where Shifter is being main decked, that is typically a format where Shifter is turning off the best deck of the format. And in those formats, you would much rather trade 1, maybe 2 interactions, or skipping your opponent's turn and then just killing them on the crackback. And I'll show some combos involving Shifter where you can kill them if they just pass, or if they try to do something, you can stop a lot of the Snake Eye lines that just end on SP under Shifter usually. I'll show some of those later. For spells, I am running 1 Traptrix Garden, as well as 3 Pot of Prosperity. If you don't have Pots of Prosperity, you can replace this with 2 Triple Tech and a Called By, and those work perfectly fine. So don't be afraid to experiment. For traps, I'm running 3 Imperm, 3 Evenly Matched. Some people will say that Evenly Matched is not very good this format, but at worst, it's forcing your opponent to lose out on a few things. Like if you evenly Snake Eyes, their inboard is probably the IP, the Heat Soul, and the Flamberge. So you're at least removing 1 interaction there, because they're probably going to try to keep the Flamberge, since they don't want to lose that ability to go +2 or +3 off of it when it leaves the field. But some people are currently not main decking this in decks that can run it because they don't think the trade-off is as good, but this is kind of just, it's either it gets negated or I remove some interactions, and then at worst you just discard it off of Holtea. Speaking of, 3 Holtea, and for the rest of the trap hole lineup I'm running 2 Gravedigger, 1 Floodgate trap hole, and 1 Bottomless trap hole. A few things here. So for the trap hole lineup that I am currently running, so double Gravedigger, 1 Bottomless, 1 Floodgate. The double Gravedigger, we're in a very grave-heavy format, especially with so many people running in upwards of 20 hand traps in main. Gravedigger is a lot more important in formats where the graveyard or the hand is kind of where everybody's playing their deck in. I also got tired of drawing the one of Gravedigger, and then I got nibbed on the Rafflesia summon. Bottomless, you can switch this out for Banishing Trap Hole or Nightmare Trap Hole, but the reason I am playing Bottomless is because, number one, it outs the normal summon Fallen of Albaz line that you might end up going against when you're playing Branded, but it also banishes Flamberge, and Flamberge will not get its effect because it has to be sent to grave to summon 2 from grave. And with Flamberge banished, it's also incredibly hard for them to get it back, if they even can at all. So this is essentially an out to Flamberge Dragon, which really turns off their grind game and prevents them from doing most of their really dumb plays. Floodgate is always good. If they summon Diabellstar, you can Floodgate the Diabellstar, which prevents them from using Original Sin to send it to the graveyard. They have to send a face-up card. So that, in some scenarios, you can force them to lose important cards in their hand, or important cards on their field that they're likely going to want when they're attempting to make a board against you. You can also use it to Floodgate the Snake Eye Ash on summon. They're still going to get Popular, but with Ash face down, they no longer are able to use the effect to send and then send to summon Flamberge. Plus it's just generically good against most matchups. For the extra deck, I'm running 1 Adipus, 1 Kill Area, 3 Sarah, 1 Rafflesia, followed by 2 Pingicula, 1 Alomiris, 1 Zeus, 1 Typhon, 1 Exciton Knight, 1 Baguska, 1 Redoer, and 1 Abyss Dweller. This extra deck so far in testing has been very good. So typically against Snake Eye, your main XYZs are going to be things like Dweller, Pingicula, Rafflesia, Sarah. Redoer is good, and bouncing a Flamberge back to the top of their deck is good. However, you want stuff that is more impactful and more defensive than things that are just going to be 1 interruption and then it's done. So cards like Dweller, turning off their graveyard is extremely important. It prevents them from doing really crazy plays with Princess, or just a lot of different things like Popular. They can't Popular effect Engrave, no Flamberge effect Engrave. It turns off all of those lines. Pingicula, under Shifter, when a card that they control leaves the field and is now banished because of Shifter's effect, you can actually attach the monster that was banished to Pingicula because it was banished by a card effect via Shifter. And then obviously Rafflesia, if you can establish either Floodgate or Bottomless or a Gravedigger on back row with a Rafflesia, you should be relatively safe for most of your time playing against Snake Eye. Because, for example, they go Wanted, summon Diabellstar Witch, grab the Original Sin, activate summon Ash. On Ash summon, you can Floodgate, or if you really wanted to, you could Floodgate the Diabellstar. So Floodgate one of those two. If they have Kieran in hand, you can chain Rafflesia to dump Gravedigger, negate, but that's if they're playing the Fire King version. Or you could hold Rafflesia for the important play, which is going to be the Flamberge Dragon. So when they summon Flamberge, you can Rafflesia send Bottomless, destroy and banish it. And now they don't get Grave Effect because it's been banished on resolution of the chain. And it's also banished, so their grind game is so much worse. There is also an argument for Baguska, or say something like kill area if you're running the Traptrix combo, which allows you to get double utility out of one trap hole. But I feel like the kill area line, you might as well just make Dweller, and the Baguska line, you might as well just make Dweller because they can still out the Baguska via link plays and so on and so forth. For the side deck, this first slot is kind of a flex spot, so you can change this out to whatever you really want to. This is just what is good at my locals in particular, the few locals I go to. It also has double utility against things like evenly matched. There's a lot of decks at my locals that tend to banish, so Lancia has just really helped me with that. 3 Ghost Mourner, this is just an effect Veiler under Shifter. 3 Droll and Lockbird. This is inside because Shifter is way higher impact against all of the Snake Eye variants. And the only one it's not super high impact against is probably the Rescue Ace Snake Eye variant. But that's where, I mean, I guess you could say they open Hydrant Preventer, it turns off that line. But if you see that matchup, you just side things out for like Ghost Mourner, or you side things out for like whatever else. I mean, you have this flex spot here if you're really worried about that matchup. Droll and then Droll was just for matchups that it actually matters in, like Snake Eye Fire King, for example, because you're not going to use this against pure Snake Eye, it's just much worse. And then Snake Eye Rescue Ace, you're also just probably not going to use this. It's very specific hands that they lose to Droll in, like Shotgunning, Bonfire, things like that. 3 Solemn Judgment. This is pretty much just a need. It's just too necessary right now. And then 3 Summon Limit. Snake Eye, funny enough, cannot play through this card. If you Summon Limit them on, say, Wanted, or say the effect of Original Sin to Special, and you flip it, they've already committed to 2 of their summons, which were Diabell Star and Ash, and now they're locked out for the turn. And typically on Diabell Star summon you can just go Floodgate, or on Ash summon you can go Floodgate, prevent them from really doing anything else. They have to open the out for this card, specifically. It's just very, very nice. As far as combos go and the ability to play into or create boards against Snake Eye, I'm going to show some combos here. So this first one is going to be Dimension Shifter and Mantis. Mantis can also just be any other normal summon that has a valuable effect. So you could have Putica with another normal, or Myrmelio. Or hell, even double Arachnacampa can also help. So the first thing you're going to do here is activate Shifter in draw phase, and then normal summon the Traptrix Mantis. The reason that you do Shifter in draw phase is because if your opponent is playing a lot of hand traps, odds are they're also playing Veiler, which if you Shifter, then they cannot Veiler you. They also can't draw you if you Shotgun Shifter, because both cards need to send to grave in order to activate their effects. So off of that Mantis, you're going to grab Arachnacampa and then link off the Mantis. This is going to go into one of your Traptrix Sarah, and you'll be activating the effect of Arachnacampa here to special summon, and then Sarah will set a trap hole on a separate chain. Now this can be any one of the trap holes that you feel is best. This is kind of just hand dependent because you are going to have 3 more cards in your hand after this. So just, if you have evenly, you might grab Holtea, but if you're worried about Nib, then you might grab a different trap hole. Sometimes, if I don't think that they can play through Shifter and then whatever else I have in my hand, I'll grab Holtea if I don't already have it. Because what this turns into is an interruption that summons Putica, and you'll be able to get both effects of Sarah. So you'll go Holtea. Let me just put these back. I'll just show you guys the combo here. So you set Holtea off of Sarah, pass turn. Let's say they're attempting to go into SP, so they just get 2 bodies on the board. You can go Holtea, summon, Sarah effect, summon from the deck. summon Pudica, or you can summon Murmelio if they have an impactful spell trap that you need to get rid of. And from here you go Pudica effect, target a special summon monster, banish it until the next standby phase. Sarah will set from deck, so here you can either set Gravedigger or Holtea. This is just dependent on if you think they have Nib or not, or if you're worried about Nib. If you're not worried about Nib, you can set Holtea. And this gives you the bodies you need to kill next turn. And you still have those 3 cards in hand as well to help you play through things. So once that's done, and let's just say these 3 cards, all interaction, graveyard. You draw for turn. And now you can go standby main. Shifter is no longer affecting you, so you can actually start playing the game here. So personally, I'd probably overlay these 2. Or Pangicula. Pangicula is going to detach and then search for maybe a Mantis. Or if you have another normal in hand, you can search Pudica to get to a Garden. Let me think. Actually, now that I think about it, probably detach the Arachnocampa. Maybe just use those 2. Or detach the Pudica. Because they're going to have a body on the board after. They're going to have a body on the board because of Pudica effect, most likely. So here you can add Dionea to your hand. And you can go Separate Chain Sarah to set from deck if you really want to. That is also a good line to just get Holtea on the back if you wanted to set the Gravedigger instead because you might be worried about Nib. So you normal Dionea here, go effect, target Pudica, summon Pudica. Pudica's going to banish the body that they had brought back. And at this point, if they had Kieran, or if they had Nibiru, or something, that Gravedigger is just going to turn that entire thing off. And then here, you're going to link these 3 out for a Traptrix Adipus. And this is exactly 81. This is exactly 8,100 damage. So this is going to kill them. If they have another body, you can do Holtea here to summon, and then Sarah to summon from deck. And honestly, you can really just go into the other Dionea to reset the Holtea if you want to. And then maybe go into kill area here or something, or you can summon a Murmelio if you're just trying to proc Sarah. But regardless, this is just going to make... You could make a Rafflesia, you could make a Dweller, could make a Redoer, could make another Pangicula if you really wanted to. If you think that they might be able to kind of nickel and dime your interactions and prevent themselves from dying, but 9 times out of 10 this is probably going to kill them. And that's just one of the kill combos under Shifter. And another thing about Shifter is the way you play Shifter in this deck. The last time Traptrix really played Shifter besides Tier Element format that I can think of is Eternal format. And in Eternal format you would play conservative with your resources. So say for example, let's just do a test hand, okay? So I'm going to take Shifter out here. I'll take Shifter out. This is going to be very scuffed because this was technically organized. We're just going to shuffle a few times. This is actually like perfect. This is the hand that I was wanting to show. So let's say you draw a hand and you have access to everything. You have access to Holtea, Combo, Shifter, the Mantis line. You have everything you need here. So you're going to Shifter, normal the Mantis, add the Arachnocampa. This plays into Nib very poorly, by the way, because you cannot Rafflesia under Shifter since it has to send to Gravest cost, or as activation requirement. You physically cannot send from deck to Gravest cost to do Rafflesia's effect if you're under Shifter, so just be mindful of that. So here you summon Sarah. And now you might be thinking, oh, I really want to do Holtea combo because I opened evenly. But that might not even be the best line, to be honest, because you're going to Arachnocampa, Sarah effect is going to set Holtea. you can Holtea, discard the Evenly. It gets banished, summon, Sarah effect to summon from deck. If they ash it, it's fine, you still have the 2 bodies to make an XYZ. But there is a issue here. So let's just say you summon Murmelio or something. You've already used Sarah effect to set from deck. Correct? So now, you're going to make an XYZ, and your plant and insect locked because of Arachnocampa. So your best bet is probably Pangicula, unless you're worried about them breaking your line, or you could go into Rafflesia. This is not a great board. This is not a great board. So instead, what I recommend is, instead of setting the Holtea off Sarah, I mean, you can set the Holtea off Sarah, but you can also grab another trap hole that might be impactful here. So like a floodgate or say a bottomless trap hole. And then just hold it. Don't even try to go into the XYZ plays, because it's not worth it. You're going to get more bodies by the end of next turn, more than likely. And this just creates more interruption regardless than making like Pangicula or a Sarah undershifter when you've been Arachnocampa locked. So the better play is to just play conservatively, and especially since you can't play through Nibiru as easily because you're undershifter, it forces you to rely on opening something like Traptrix Garden, and then also not using your second normal yet, because Garden can only summon from hand or grave. So if you don't have that extra monster in hand, and you've already used your second normal, and you get nibbed after that, it's very tough. So with Shifter in the deck, just play conservatively. There is talk of whether you should run Brig or Exceed in your main deck when you're running Shifter, and I've tested this over, let's see, so I did 2 locals apiece with Exceed, 2 locals apiece with Brig, and 2 locals apiece with Fenrir, and all of the pros and cons of them are Exceed allows you to play through Nib easier, and it's also great hand trap bait. It more consistently lets you use Sarah to summon from your deck. Those are the pros of Exceed. It also allows you to end on a bigger board. It just creates a higher power ceiling for the deck. The pros of Brigandine are it allows you to play under Shifter better, and it allows you to activate Sarah's effect to summon from the deck more consistently without having to discard things off of Holtea. But the downsides of Brig are it puts too much emphasis on Sarah's effect to summon from deck to resolve, so when you get ashed on that, it feels a lot worse. Whereas if you had Exceed, it plays through Ash so much easier, because if they Ash the Exceed on summon, then you still have the Holtea line to make your rank 4 plays. Whereas Brig can't do that. And then Fenrir itself just helps you crack boards a lot easier. You just special it going second, force interaction from your opponent, or it just creates an active threat on the board that they have to deal with sooner or later. And then Fenrir also puts you in line for Nibiru way more. There were a lot of times where I would special Fenrir because I had it, and I was thinking if they have the nib, they have the nib. Sometimes, though, I would just hold it, because if I didn't have Traptrix Garden or I didn't have a way to stop nib, then I just wouldn't summon Fenrir because I was so scared of getting nibbed and just having my entire turn taken from me. Those aren't all of the pros and cons of Exceed, Brig, and Fenrir, though. Another con for Exceed is if you're playing into a board and your opponent has layered interaction, Exceed is not very good, whereas Brig is slightly better, but still not very good, because at the end of the day, if the Sarah is interacted with and stopped, then your entire game plan is just closed. But Exceed allows you to at least bait stuff a little better. It goes into SP worse because you make Sarah and then you go Exceed effect. they go SP effect, banish itself, banish Sarah, and now your Xseed can't resolve because there's no link monster that it can summon itself to the zone of. But the argument against SP as well is, well, you can literally just, you have things like Prosp to dig for Imperm. You could also theoretically Nibiru them, force them to be incapable of making it, or force them to shotgun it during their turn and then bring the things back next standby. And then you can just go battle hit with the Nib. There's quite a few ways to get through it, to be honest. If you're main decking Fenrir, it does make it a lot easier. So if you can run this main deck and then also 3 Fenrir by cutting some things, I think that would also be very good to going into boards with SP. When you're going into Snake Eye format, something that you really have to ask yourself is, can my deck play a lot of non-engine? And is my deck capable of playing with the graveyard or outright shutting it off? And if the answer to one of those questions is yes, then odds are it's going to be a decent matchup into Snake Eye. And if both of those questions are yes, then odds are it's going to be a good matchup going into Snake Eye. Now obviously, Snake Eye, tier 0, very, very good deck. The point that I'm trying to make is you want to play a deck that is capable of exploiting Snake Eye's weaknesses as best as possible. So decks like Marincess or Mutant, they all have a very common theme, which is, for Mutant, it's shutting the graveyard off and establishing at least a minimal board. Marincess, it's running so many hand traps that your opponent is just physically incapable of playing through them, and then also possibly ending on a Dweller. Traptrix can do both, which is why I think Traptrix has a very good matchup going into this current format. Now, some other options for a side deck, if anyone is interested in that. You can safely cut out these Lancias for something like, say, Veilers. You could cut them out for more traps to use on your turn if you're going first, because there are going to be matchups where summon limit is not great, or matchups where maybe Judgment isn't so great. Maybe you're scared of something like a Labyrinth, so you really want to run Bell. Bell could easily replace Lancia. And if you really wanted to, you could also replace Mourner. The side deck is very, very malleable. The things that I would definitely keep though are definitely Droll, definitely Judgment, definitely Summon Limit. These 9 cards I feel like are too impactful right now to cut them at all. Because, so, for example, if you go first and you have Summon Limit, how does Snake Eye play through this? They need exactly Cosmic Cyclone, they need like a Cure and Effect Engrave to pop it. They need something. They need to get rid of it somehow. And with Traptrix establishing Layered Interruption in the form of a set Trap Hole and like a Rafflesia, you can Gravedigger hand effects. If they try to out the Summon Limit, it's like, okay, so they've traded a card for a card, and now you should have an interaction for every card in their hand still. And then the argument for Judgment is just evenly. That's about it. Evenly, Lightning Storm. That's really about it. Some other options in main deck. Like I said, you can cut Prosp or Triple Tack in a Called By. If you really don't want to run 3 Putica, you could cut a Putica for a Called By. You could move the 3 evenly, maybe for Ghost Bell or Fenrir or DD Crow, but this has just been a staple in the deck ever since Holtea came out, because opening this with Holtea going first is really good, and opening this going second is, at worst, you're banishing a couple cards that might not have a whole lot of impact, or you're discarding it off Holtea, or at best you're yanking like an entire board of interaction. It's just too good. Too good not to run. that was the deck profile. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and my next video is probably going to be a video about the best decks you can use going into Snake Eye format. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Have a good one.